This is the secret of what allows me to edit so fast. So I can zoom in and out of my timeline just there. With that scroll wheel, I can tap to show my entire timeline all at once. I can make a cut on all video tracks at the playhead by tapping just there, and it will make a cut. If I wanted to make a bit more individual cuts, we can do that. Tap that button to delete those. We can undo those with the button on the side just there. If I want to scrub through my timeline, I can do so just there. Or if I need a bit more finesse, I can do it frame by frame with this button just here. If I want to expand or collapse the audio track, I can do so just there. It's a very, very fast way to edit. It's called the Toolbox. Let's talk about it. So this is it right here, and it kind of looks like a cross between a video game controller and a fidget toy, and it even sounds like a fidget toy, but it's not. The idea behind this is this sits in your left hand, and you can do all the things I showed you the intro there that you commonly do in photo and video editing apps, and then the mouse is in the right hand, and you don't ever need to touch the keyboard. This is essentially replacing any keyboard shortcuts that you are constantly having to push when you are editing. I've actually been using the original Toolbox for years. I made a video 4 or 5 years ago. It was the black version, the first one that they had that came out. Now this video is sponsored by Toolbox. It's the most natural sponsorship for me to do because it's a product that is always on my desk, I'm always using, I'm a huge fan of, and they wanted to send through the new one and sponsor this video. So why am I going to say no to that? This is the Toolbox Elite Plus. It has a lot of upgrades and design changes over the original one that I was using and have used all these years. It's got this nice translucent design, which means you can see the internals, which is always nice. And the finish on this is a little bit different to the original one that I used. So I think it's going to age a little better. Now the Elite Plus has Bluetooth connectivity, so you don't actually have to use a USB-C cable plugged in the top there. I have a spare one on my desk, so I just leave it plugged in all the time. It has haptic feedback when you're scrolling on this wheel here and scrolling on this wheel here, and it's really nice. It gives you that feedback as you're using it. So that's my one on that. That's the haptic feedback there. Also this one as well. And this will now allow you to switch between multiple devices. So if you have a home computer and then a laptop for when you travel, or an iPad for when you travel, you can connect this and it will work. You can swap between devices. But what's kept this on my desk all these years isn't the design or the new features. They're nice, but it's just the experience of actually using this versus using a keyboard. With a keyboard, you're constantly moving your left hand between different buttons, different areas of the keyboard, hitting the space, going back to Command and Shift, and then whatever. With this, it just perfectly sits on your left hand, mouse on the right hand, and that is how you edit everything. You don't ever need to lift your hand up from this. It does take a little bit of time and have not a learning curve, but a habit breaking period where you go from using the keyboard and doing Command and C, Command and V, and all the other shortcuts that you typically do to just using this instead. But once you get in the habit of using this, you won't ever look back. And you really do notice the difference. Like if I don't bring this home and I'm editing on my 14-inch MacBook Pro at home, going back to a keyboard feels so sluggish and slow, and half the time I'll just not bother editing and I'll come back in because I know I can do it so much faster with this. It does make that much of a difference. If you've been following the channel a while, you know that earlier in the year I did learn Resolve. I wanted to learn the color grading aspects of it, but primarily, as you saw in the intro, I edit in Final Cut. But it doesn't matter what software you use because you can get profiles and customize this to work in whatever piece of software you want to use with it. Now that's all done through the Toolbox console app. Now you'll quickly see that Toolbox is way more detailed than I am actually using it. You got things like a heads-up display here that you can turn on and off depending on the software that you're in. I don't use that. You can create actions with combination clicks and double clicks and all those kinds of things. I don't use that. I use it very simply at its core for all of the buttons that it has right here. Each one of those buttons, as you can see here, is basically performing some form of keyboard shortcut that I'm very commonly doing. So right now you can see we're in my Final Cut profile here, and if we go over to Final Cut, you'll see I just have it very basically set up so that if I want to make, as I showed you at the beginning, a cut at the playhead there for all video tracks, I can just tap that button and do that. If I want to delete something, I can select it, tap that button right there. I can undo with that button there. I can expand the audio components and retract them, and I can scrub through the timeline. I can zoom in and out. Now it's very straightforward to change what one of these buttons can do. You don't need to find it in here. You just simply tap the button you want to change the keyboard shortcut combination for, and then it will show it to you right there. If I was to scroll the wheel here, it would highlight that one, but let's go back to this. You click on that, and then you just go whichever keyboard shortcut combination, so Command and C, for example, and then you click OK, and now it changes that button to Command and C. we are going to turn it back to what I had, which is Shift, Command, and B, and then hit OK. Now there is something else you can actually do with the Toolbox called hover adjust. You see where I go over these values here to be changed, and there's a little box that appears around the outside. That means you can actually just hover above it and adjust it by using the buttons on the Toolbox. You can use the wheel there, you can use the scroller, but it's not just inside this, you can do it when changing color too. So if we go over here and we go to our color wheels, I can hover above, and again you see that little box there, and I can adjust the color just by using the wheels here. So you can go up and down there, you can move it around by spinning the wheel just there. You can click it to reset. So let's say you go up here and you're like, actually I don't like that. Click it, it resets it. You can do it on the sides here as well for the exposure, for your brightness. You can do it for your saturation level. It's just a really fast and more accurate way to adjust this than dragging it, and when you release it, it might slightly move. And that works for anything that you can adjust. So anything that could be adjusted with your mouse, with a slider, you can actually just do it by hovering above and changing it directly just using the Toolbox itself. The nice thing about this is it follows the software that you're using. So it runs in the background, and if I now load up Lightroom, it will bring my Lightroom profile across without me having to go into Toolbox console and actually physically click on it and load it up. So we go into Lightroom Classic. You see up here, did you see that? Let's go back to Final Cut. You see how it says up here? It loaded that preset. We'll go back to Lightroom Classic. And in Lightroom Classic, I use it very simply. If I want to zoom in and out, I just use these buttons right here. If I want to basically cull through my images, which is what I'm commonly doing with this, I can go left and right here. And then let's say, the way that I edit is kind of strange. I just use 5 stars or rejected. So let's say 5 stars, 5 stars, but then this one's rejected, 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 and if I wanted to undo, I love having that button as undo there. Very straightforward how I use it in Lightroom. And then when it comes to actually editing an image, there's 2 things I have set up. Exposure, which I can increase and decrease with the dial just here, and then my highlights, which is just here. Now if you don't want the auto swatch to run, you can actually turn it on and off there in the background for whatever reason if you needed to do that. But the other nice thing is here you can import and export your presets there. So if you go to Toolbox's website, you'll see there are a bunch of presets here which you can load up and try out from people, and you can sort by language and by the software that you're using, and you can download these and use them as a basis and customize them if you wanted to. And then to import one, it's very straightforward. So let's go to Toolbox here, import, and this is one of them right here. So you can click on that, open, and it'll now import that. And it says not linked because you need to select the software. We want it to run with Lightroom Classic, save, simple as that. One little tip I'll give you, go into the settings and make sure you have run at boot turned on. That way it's always running when you restart your computer and you don't need to just open it. It does it for you. So I'm using mine very basically, but if you want to go in deeper and use some of the more deep features that it has available to automate tasks, you can definitely do that. You can click on standard mode here and you have things like release mode. So a command is sent when the button is released. You can repeat mode, command is sent repeatedly while the button is held down. AB mode, pressing the button sends command A, release it sends command B. There's a lot you can do if you want to get in deep here to configure this exactly how you want it. Or you can just use it simply like I do to speed up editing. It's just one of those things that it's not overly flashy, but it's extremely functional in what it does. And I understand that these kinds of devices may not be for everyone, but if you try this out and you stick with it, believe me when I say it will drastically change your workflow, increase your efficiency, and just make editing a lot less painless than it needs to be because there's so many different things you have to click on. Thank you Toolbox for sending through the new one and sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching. If you want to try this out, I'll pop a link down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.